This is the video and live streaming show. I'm John Lacey and this is Sam Proof. And today we're talking all about community. So, how do you find your tribe? How do you build your community? How do you moderate that community? And what's the deal with chatbots? So, we're going out live to all of the places. So, let us know in the chat where you're coming to us from and, how you actually work with building your own audience. We'd love to hear that in the chat. Hello, Sam. How are you doing?
Good, John. How have you been?
Yeah, pretty good. It's sort of my first week back at my day job officially, so that
Oh
was
yeah.
a bit of a culture shock after some holidays. But it's good to be back in the swing of things.
Yeah, I don't have a real job right now, but I actually feel the same way where I like let go of a lot of habits and I'm like, okay, I think it's time to get back into whatever the hell I was doing.
Absolutely. So, as I mentioned, we're going out to all of the various places today. So, if you're out there, say hello. And Insomnia Doodles is saying hi. Nice to meet you, John. Nice to meet you too.
Hey,
Um,
Tanya.
So yeah, today we're talking about community, and I guess Sam, one of the things that I kind of hear quite often is create with your audience in mind. But I guess the problem with that is you may not have an audience when you start. So how should we be approaching that, especially in the early days? Do you think?
Right. You also may not have anything in mind. Case in point, when a lot of us got started, us being the two of us, back in the early days of YouTube, it was just throw content out there, and because we just wanted to make videos, we just wanted to talk to people. There was no uh, forethought to it. We weren't making a show about streaming, a show about content creation, So a lot of people may be struggling to go, well, who the hell is my audience anyway? And I think there's a lot to that where you need to take a step back, look at what you are doing, uh, you know, and maybe there is something to what your content is if it's not clear, and figure that thing out. Like maybe you are a lifestyle. In in the case where this is what I am doing, this is what I am building. Those communities exist out there. You need to create in your head what the marketing teams will call like a profile of the person you want. And it is very specific, not just down to I'm trying to, appeal to 18-year-old dudes. You're trying to appeal to a dude named Tad who's really into football and so on and so forth. And so build out that ideal, who's this guy that I'm talking to? It's almost that thing where you're doing public speaking and you're looking straight at one person, you're like making that connection. You're making that connection in your head. You're like imagining this person, you're figuring out who they are, what their wants are, and what the content you can make for Tad is. Guys, don't make content for Tad. He sounds a little iffy.
Hi to Tad if he's watching, although I profoundly doubt it. I guess especially if you're doing it for purely for fun and you're just experimenting, I think just try things out and see what you enjoy doing. And
Yeah,
I
make
guess
content for you.
yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that one of the reasons that I might stick or with your content or maybe move away from it is often the personality and some of the cultural things that either make sense to my brain or just cause my brain to explode. But the thing, in the words of the great Billy Joel, don't go changing to try to please me, because I think it's really important that you do just
Mhm.
embrace who you are and be who you are, because it's just exhausting to try to be anybody else.
Yes, there is definitely a give and take between what my audience wants and what I want to do. And if you're just serving the audience, then what's the point?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so I guess, in terms of thinking about our audience, assuming that, maybe we're starting to very slowly build one, I think it's kind of worth articulating like who are these people and what are their values and what are your rituals. I guess Sam, I'm curious to hear from your perspective. I obviously you've got your Sandproof stuff and you've got the Cute Avalanche stuff.
Mhm.
And I know that you've been referring to people as, or your audience in some ways, as Sam Fam for like, 15 years now.
Yeah,
Um, but I guess, how I think what we want to think about a little bit is, what are our values and how do we identify, and what is the overlap with the audience? I don't even know that I have a question, but maybe if you can speak to
sure.
that a little bit, that would be great.
I think this is actually very important, obviously. So I think the kitten cam is a great example of this. The Sam Fam is very fluid on what the flavor of the month that I want to be doing is. So it's more about me and less about them, insomnia being one of them. But the Kitten Crew, which is the tribe over at the Cute Avalanche channel, obviously they like cats. But beyond that, there are values within that community. We are specifically serving not just people who want to look at cats, but people who want to know that we're doing good in the world. We're doing animal rescue. We are saving cats' lives. Um, you know, you could take that in so many different directions. We could be very anti-dog, right?
Hmm.
Uh, you know, we definitely take sides on certain issues like indoor only cats versus people who like to let their cats outside and stuff like that. So those are the values that you present and your community can rally against. And honestly, it kind of leads up to that sentiment of if you don't have haters, you're not doing it right, because that's what those values in effect will do. Someone out there is going to be like, I love to let my cats outside. My cats love being outside. It's prison to put them inside. And then, well, I have facts that tell you otherwise, but we're not going to get into that. That is what it is. Um,
It's
you know,
it's interesting because I hear this advice all the time, and I see people picking fights about things that maybe they believe in, maybe they don't. It's not immediately obvious to me if that is the
right,
case, but I mean I don't really love the idea of causing arguments for the sake of arguments, but I mean there are
right.
things that, and I've got to tell you, over the last probably 2 weeks now, I've been looking at I've been looking at all the content on LinkedIn and seeing the Chat GPT stuff and just losing my mind because as Sam will know, I think it's absolute garbage and I don't want to interact with it at all. And I've just been taking a deep breath and saying, I want to maintain this relationship with this person, so I'm just going to keep scrolling. But that's a really good point, and I think you know. One thing that's cropped up for me recently is, I think of myself as a content creator, and I use those words, and it's been interesting because I've seen some pushback to that language specifically. There are people that are like, I'm not a content creator. That's not me. I'm a coach who also makes content on the side, or something to that effect. And I guess some of the things that I keep coming back to, and to be honest, I feel like they're really unpopular. I don't know
Mhm.
if this is a great strategy. Maybe everyone watching can learn from my mistake. But I see a lot of people talking about things that are really exciting and fun. And I'm like, I just keep coming back to being the boring voice of reason. I'm like, do the accessibility things, make the content yourself, write the
Yeah.
things you care about. And to be honest, I don't know. I suspect that's a hard sell, and I'm probably an annoying person to be around at the best of times. But I mean, it is what it is. Again, getting back to that thing about not necessarily changing too much. But one thing, I guess, we talk about values and rituals. Something that features very prominently in my life and certainly my content is coffee. So, I mean, my other show is literally called Coffee and Content. So, I talk about, through coffee, all things are possible. So that's something that I certainly come back to from time to time. I guess one of the things that we've spoken about recently, I say recently, we've been speaking about this ever since we started this show, but
Mhm.
it is essentially about not spreading yourself too thin on all of the platforms, and it's a bit of a tension. And I kind of feel like I know that people in my audience have different preferences, and there are some people, if I don't post to Facebook, for example, they will never see anything I do.
Yep.
But I guess the maybe the unintended consequence of this is that you can have, we talk about community, but in reality, you probably have pockets of community all over the
Yes.
internet in different places, and they may or may not communicate with each other. How do you approach that as a opportunity and a problem? I guess potentially.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is something that people do need to keep in mind, that you will have these splinters and pocket communities and things like that. And you want to find a way to reuse your content and your prompts on the various platforms without making it, I've just ripped my TikTok video and posted it on Facebook, posted it on Instagram, posted it on YouTube. You want to repurpose that content, but so that it looks new and fresh on that particular platform. If you can be, I'm talking more about content sharing at this point, but within that, you do want to have calls to action to kind of nudge your community to check out those other platforms and follow you in other places. I think figuring out what your central hub is, so that you're not just going like TikTok, go to Instagram, Instagram, go to Facebook, Facebook, go to YouTube, YouTube, go to Twitch. That's too much. Have one, maybe two. One is best, but there's a lot of people out there who push like email lists, and while I'm really bad at my email list, I think that may actually be the best place to guide your community, if not, one specific platform. But then you can, the beauty of an email list is that's not going away anytime soon. Like that platform's not going to die randomly. And then you're like, oh man, I had 2,000 people over there. And then I remember 2 screen names. How am I going to find these people? Yeah.
And I guess like we want to push people back to platforms that we own essentially. But I
Yeah.
guess like even just this week, and just as a bit of background, we had this conversation on Restream in Restream Studio. I'm sharing this out to LinkedIn, to YouTube, to Facebook, to Twitter, and Twitch. No one knows I'm on Twitch, but I do that anyway. And I was just thinking recently, like I kind of really want to bring all my people to YouTube or LinkedIn. And I know in some ways that's a hard sell, but I've kind of lately I've just been experimenting because traditionally what I would do is if I had a video, I would just post it in all of the places. And now I'm thinking it would be really good if they watch this on YouTube specifically, because that's sort of one of the two platforms that I've identified that I really want to get people to. But I
Yeah.
guess and we talk about FOMO, the fear of missing out. I guess what I've learned anecdotally is there are just people that won't spend any time on any platforms, and as an experiment this week, this is actually going out on Sam's Instagram account, and that's one place that
I
I
don't know
just
that
don't
that
enjoy
works.
being.
Sorry to interrupt, but yeah, we did try to set that up, and from what I can see, it's not actually doing it because
Uh,
Instagram is so persnickety on how it works. It's not an API connection, so looks like I messed it up. Sorry, but I do think, for the sake of what we're doing here, YouTube, possibly LinkedIn, is the best place to point an audience to. Um, and that's not going to be true for every kind of content creator. It's not going to be true for someone maybe who's doing fitness, but probably, um, unless their main thing is specifically a live fitness show, in which case I might say a different live trend like Twitch or something. But as we are a live show, based on the content we're making and the educational value it has, I believe YouTube, possibly LinkedIn, is the best place for this to live. So that is the best place in this case to send those people. If you're, doing content that is less educational and more entertainmenty, it may not be. It might not have the search engine value that YouTube can bring to it.
So I guess if we think a little bit about how do you actually build a community in the first place, and I know we've sort of spoken a little bit about the values and the rituals, but I guess and in my mind there's probably two parts to this, and one is just straight up building awareness that you exist, which is
Yeah.
pretty much where I'm living at the moment. But I guess the other one is about sort of building relationships, and just inviting people to join you for the ride. So, I guess, in terms of that general awareness, and we've spoken about this a little bit in the past, but my big thing is, are you actually signposting your content with the words and the language that your audience or your potential audience are actually using? Because at the end of the day, a lot of the things that we do come back down to search, and text is really the defining feature of our ability to find things via search. I know people will say, "Oh, but YouTube automatically transcribes my video, and that's good enough." But I kind of invite people to be a little bit more deliberate about this. And I guess even, and again, I've been doing a lot of little things to my YouTube channel of late, just to hopefully make them work a little bit better. Um, and I sort of went back to some of my earlier live streams, and like they were just the name of the show and 004, so coffee and content 004, and like that doesn't mean anything, and no one's searching for
No.
that. I really need to go back in and actually watch the video again, because it was several months ago, and just see what it was about, and update the title and all of the things. But I guess, don't. Again, we talk about values. Like this is something I really do believe in, and I probably will stress every time we talk. But it's so important. It's such a great opportunity, and it's not massively difficult. But you just need to think about it a little bit more explicitly.
Yeah, I would say when we talk about building a community, one of the best things you can do is be putting your content out consistently and on a regular schedule. You can find us every Friday at 1 p.m. right here. And there you go. I have a definitive time and place that you can watch what we're doing and join us in the future. So you can promote that. Great. While you're doing that if it's live, while you're doing it, you can call attention to it and things like that. The other thing about building community is reacting to, if you're doing a live stream, anyone who comments in your chat, don't let them hang. React to it, answer their questions, even if it's the same question. We've talked about that before. If they're on YouTube or something else and they're leaving comments, answer those comments. You know, right now while you're growing it, there's no reason you can't answer the small smattering of things that are going to come through. You want to get to the point where it's like, oh yeah, I can't do. It's thousands of comments. I couldn't possibly. And that's when you can use that to your advantage and be like, first 48 hours or something it posted, I will answer every comment. And that will just help it boost it in the algorithm, because everyone's going to get in there and start commenting on it. But yeah, be consistent, stick to a regular schedule, promote that, and talk to everyone.
And I guess in terms of talking to everyone, we have had some comments in the chat, and I think we're going to talk about this a little bit more explicitly later on. But Insomnia Doodles was saying that there's a difference between haters and people who have opinions. Some haters are just trolls and should be yeeted straight into the garbage, in my opinion. Which I think is probably a fair opinion. I think in some ways, if you're new to doing these sorts of things, and you don't have a lot of confidence, it can be so tempting to really embrace any advice that is provided to you. And it's funny, even in my day job, I created something. I won't even get into what it was. It's not really important to the story. But one person who was very vocal had a lot of feedback. We made massive changes to it based on this one person's feedback. We released it. Everyone hated it. We went back to what it was previously. So I think really you want to be a little bit careful about whose advice you are taking more generally. So and in some ways you need to decide what you're creating, and really just dig in, and not be too distracted by that. And again, just as a little bit of feedback, also in the chats for Sam specifically. So Means is saying that your category says MTG.
Yeah, I wasn't.
Twitch.
I didn't see the chat because I have John full screen, so I can actually focus in. Because if I see the chat while we're talking, he'll ask me a question, and I'll be like, I have no idea what you just said, because somebody over here was playing the game, which
Yep.
I actually disabled for this. But yeah, I fixed that. Apparently, Restream does not alter the Twitch category, or I just have to talk to John about altering that. We'll take a look in the future. I didn't realize it had done that. Now we're under talk shows and podcasts. Thank you. But I
Nice.
do want to say about haters versus people with opinions and things like that. We are going to get into chat moderation in a little while, and I think that's important to address that in that section when we get to it.
Absolutely. So I guess, even if you are sort of starting a creative endeavor and you are looking for an audience, I think one opportunity is to sort of find out where, fellow kindred spirits already live and sort of join those communities. I say that, but obviously you want to befriend people. You don't want to spam people, and there are quite explicit instructions and rules in a lot of different communities, with different places. But I guess, there's an opportunity to find people because there's a good chance, you haven't invented the topic you're talking about. It doesn't exist in a vacuum, so it's
And
good to
if you
see where.
have, probably no one's going to watch it.
Yes, yeah, no one
You
knows
don't
it's a
want to be
thing
that
yet. They
early
can't
to
search for
something. Yeah, right. No, you definitely want to appeal to a community of things that actually have people out there that are interested in finding content about that. Yeah, it's a very good point.
Absolutely. So if you can find those people, and I guess not only will you maybe find potential audience members, but you may actually find fellow creators that you can collaborate with, which is also a wonderful thing. Well, another thing that has been quite useful for me is just to ask people what they want to know.
Mhm.
Some of my greatest success on YouTube and LinkedIn specifically is just saying, "Hey, what is it about OBS Studio that you would like to know how to do?" And sometimes I will literally just make a video for that one person, and I will mention that person by name in that video, and they will love me forever after that.
Yeah.
And it's maybe 10 minutes of my time to put it together. So again, I guess people want to be seen. They want to be you know appreciated and interacted with. And I guess we do have a little bit going on the chat, and
Yeah.
Insomnia Doodles has written this huge thing which I won't put on the
I
screen
love
just
it.
yet, but I might just read a little bit of.
Okay.
So I think the best thing you can do to build community is be genuine.
Yeah.
Really care about the people who come to your channel. Remember their names and pronouns. Remember the things they tell you about their lives. See your audience as friends. That's how I like to handle my own streams anyway. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, I think I use all of that advice in my own streaming. I mean, I think everyone who's in my chat right now probably considers me a friend because I consider them a friend. Uh, except Wisebot.
And is that
And yeah, go on.
I was just gonna say, like, just as a bit of a background for people watching, in terms of chat moderation, it's always hilarious because Sam does link up his Twitch channel, which has all of the bots and all of the games, and like lot of the time I just look at the chat thinking, is that a real person? Is that an instruction to kill a zombie? I don't really know.
Yeah, I turned off the main bot so it wouldn't be too spammy with game commands because the last few shows nobody's been playing that because the overlay is not even there. So I was like, I'll try and minimize chat spam.
um, and means wrote, yeah, I'm sure we could turn up to crash on Sam's couch. Cute Av, lol.
So that's actually an emote at the end that it
Oh,
didn't
okay.
convert.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sure. All right. So this is the video and live streaming show. I'm John Lacey. I'm joined by Sam Proof, and we're talking about community chat today. If you got questions or comments, please let them know in the chat. We're going out live to all the various places. So yeah, I guess like the next thing that might be worth exploring, and again, I know that you do this certainly with Cute Avalanche, and we've spoken about this previously, but user generated content. So how do you bring other people into your world in maybe a little bit more of an active way? And I know that you've spoken previously about actually the Twitch gives people the ability to create their own cute avalanche
Yeah.
clips when something exciting or fun or cute happens.
Yeah, I mean, UGC, user generated content, is really just a low lift way of creating a collaboration between yourself and your audience. So this could take so many forms. It could be pictures, it could be videos, literally people asking you questions ahead of time and things like that is UGC that you can turn into content, you know. So it depends on what you're doing. For like the kitten cam for Cute Avalanche, some of our go-tos are, yeah, we have Twitch, so you can automatically use the built-in clipping tool. I take it one step farther and have created an in-chat command, which is !clip it, which will let people do it that way. So it'll just be like, boom, whatever the last 30 seconds is now a clip. They don't even have to go in, crop things, title it. It's completely, low lift and just hooked up to the chat bot. Encouraging people to send you pictures via, Instagram or Twitter or Facebook. Always good. You can have a designated hashtag that people can submit content that way. A jot form if you want to actually utilize it in like a blog or something, or have the file to download so you can play it on your stream or in your video. So there's an endless amount of ways to encourage people to be a part of what your content is.
And I guess, like, if I think about YouTube specifically, the community tab is being rolled out to more people,
Yeah.
and you have the options for the text or image based polls. So even that is a very low level way of getting some
Yes.
interaction with your audience or your potential audience. So I mean, sometimes it can just be as easy as asking a yes or no question,
Mm-hmm.
and just sort of gauging that in that sense. One thing I will say is that a very long time ago, I set up the speak pipe interaction functionality, I suppose, on my website, which allows people to actually record a question and have it sent to me directly. I must
Um,
admit, no one has ever actually done that, but I like the idea that it is potentially there.
yeah, I had something like that years ago for my YouTube. There was like, I think it was the equivalent of a Google Voice phone number that you could call and leave a voicemail. And I put it out there with the intention of people asking me questions or something. I think I got two. I think I still have one of those somewhere. Every once in a while on my like music shuffle, this like weird clip comes up, and I'm like, oh, that's right, that's from that thing. I should probably track that down and get rid of it. Unnecessary. But yeah, I think
Absolutely.
that's a great idea. I think it's cool. And a lot, I there is a sort of hierarchy on what people are willing to do. Like answer a poll or leave a comment is probably at the very top because that's like easiest. I can type, I can click. Great. Uh, you know, take take a picture of something and post it, a little harder. Do a video, even less likely that somebody's going to follow through on that. And I think, create like a voice message is somewhere in the middle of those two. So I think that's a pretty interesting thought as well.
Absolutely. And I guess one thing that I often think about and have to remind myself, and this is actually from the Nielsen Norman Group, and this has been around for quite a while, but essentially, they've got a an article, the 99-1 rule for participation, inequality in social media and online communities. And essentially, the 1% are the people that are actually the heavy contributors online. 9% are intermittent contributors, and 90% are lurkers. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's
Yeah.
a really important thing to remember, just if only to set some expectations for yourself as a content creator. The you kind of want to keep it. And I guess this is something I kind of struggle with a little bit because in some ways, if you're looking for engagement, the easier you can make that for the person, the better. But by the same token, I see some really dumb things like people will write "kittens are cute," agree question mark, and get like 3,000 comments, and I'm just like,
But it's low
I
lift.
mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's something that sort of causes my brain to explode. So I probably shouldn't dwell on it too long. But I guess that's the thing. And sometimes you can write the most beautiful, perfect article, and like it doesn't raise any questions. It doesn't cause people to want to comment. And again, I think even last week you sort of alluded to the fact, sometimes if you're just doing it cynically for some feedback in that regard, putting a mistake in there or a typo can be the
Mm-hmm.
one of the easiest ways of doing that.
Sure, if you want to get that negative attention. Generally, I mean, I'm sure there's some people out there who are like, oh, but oh, you spelled that wrong. It's your, not your,
Hmm.
whatever it is. But yes, there are people who deliberately put mistakes in there so that people will call them out just to get the interactivity. And I'm not sure I'm encouraging that, but if it works, it works. Um, but yeah, I think that the 99-1 rule is really helpful because that is accurate. There's definitely a majority of people who are just going to sit back and watch. And as a creator, your goal should be to nudge the 90 into the 9, to nudge the 9 into the 1. You want to just give them a little. So if it's asking, do you think kittens are cute? Those 90 may actually take the time to be like, yes, I can handle that amount of interaction, and then you use the more thought-provoking questions on the mid group and the top tier to bring them over. And that's really just how you build that community and get more interaction from that community. And eventually, you can make some super fans out of that, or actual friends. Wouldn't that be nice?
I mean, both of those things would be wonderful, and I guess for the benefit, particularly of Sam's audience, I just want to go on record as saying that yes, I do think kittens are cute, but I hold some truths to be self-evident.
I mean, he's a follower. He is. He's on there.
Insomnia Doodles writes, "Preach, John." So yes, yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. All right, so this is the video and live streaming show. I'm John Lacey, and this is Sam Proof. Today we're talking all about community, building a community, moderating a community, and what's the deal with chatbots, which I need to know all about, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But first, Sam, in terms of community moderation, obviously you probably are the person that needs to decide what's appropriate for your community and what's not. Do you do that in an explicit way? Does that just happen organically over time?
Um, yeah, I think I personally move into the organic over time kind of thing because a lot of what I do is fluid and always changing, and I'm always trying to figure out what things are and where to go from it. Yeah. Uh, I got lost in my own thought. If you're going,
So I guess depending on the individual platform that you're on, they will have their own set of rules.
yeah,
Obviously, there are laws around a lot of things. But I guess you want to think about making it a safe and respectful place for
yeah,
people to be. I mean, that's kind of one of the reasons I appreciate LinkedIn, because even if you're having a disagreement with somebody, I think everyone's conscious of the fact that they're usually using their real name, and their employer is only a click away. So people are a little bit more respectful, and where on some of the other platforms they're just completely unhinged. But I guess you know, do is it worth sort of articulating some of those values and
oh yeah,
specifying some of those rules? So
for
obviously
sure,
some of the different tools will have like if there are specific words that you'll get kicked that you use, so you could get kicked out of the chat automatically. But I guess and I say this as someone who doesn't really have a large audience right now, so I'm really just curious about what you do for Cute Avalanche and for the
sure.
Soundproof stuff. Yeah.
So I will approach almost every community when I'm establishing it with a very kid glove kind of everything's family friendly, because that's more inclusive than exclusive, because the more blue the language gets, the more opportunity for people to leave. I think a lot of us sarcastic, cynical adult people who have never really left teenagehood and tend to talk like sailors think, oh, everyone talks like that. But the actual data behind it is no, we're the outliers. More people will go, oh, I didn't realize he was going to drop so many F bombs on this stream. I'm out of here. You know, there are a lot of people who will see alcohol or smoking on stream or vaping and they're gone. So the less uh, sort of uber adult things you're doing on stream, the more inclusive your stream really is, the more chance you have to grow that audience. So I approach, chat moderation mostly in that family friendly vein. Once you know who your audience is, once you know what you are, you can step back from that. Case in point, we do drink on our three, well, not in the morning stream, but our two weekly chats Amanda and I do on the Kitten Cam. We go from the family friendly to, except for this hour anything goes pretty much, but we're not going to push the limits. It's PG-13.
Mhm.
So, I would always take the stance of try and attract the widest audience within your niche as possible by not putting too many adult things into it to start and then pull back, where
Sure.
you see appropriate.
Yeah, so that makes sense. I just want to call out a couple of
Yeah.
comments in the chat here. So, Insomnia Doodles, for me, it's a balance. I'm a little bit more loose with my rules normally, but I do a lot of charity streams, and some like Extra Life compels more of a family friendly atmosphere. I try my best, but sometimes a wordy derd, which is such a great expression, slips through.
Yeah.
Um,
Before we move on, I think um, this is great. Um, when we deal with like gaming communities, there's gonna be kids, even though TOS says 13 or 14. I don't, depending on the platform and the area. You should just expect kids to show up, and maybe it depends on what game you're playing. You'll know what that is. There's a big difference between the Call of Duty world and the Minecraft world. It's not that big. So yeah, play it safe. Go on.
Absolutely. And means rights. I think Sam has done a pretty good job of picking mods. I don't think any
She's one.
mods have brought their own values to the moderation of Sam's channels. It has to be about the channel owner, not the individual mod generally.
Yeah, and I want to get really into picking moderators. I think that is a very important thing. Every once in a while, in a live streamer's path, they will have someone come into their chat and be like, "Can I be a moderator?" And you automatically say no. There's no world in which you go, "Yes, random stranger I've never talked to before. I will give you that ability to kick out people from my stream." Um, yeah,
It's
when
funny you say that actually because a few months ago, LinkedIn have this LinkedIn audio events feature, which is basically just a live video thing without the video. And essentially, I was only trying it out. I didn't really have a topic to discuss, but someone showed up, and I thought, what the hell? Let's give them the mic. And the next thing I knew, they were like, asking for money and stuff, and I'm like, oh, this is really not cool.
yeah, no, I would say almost the same things about the people you let moderate as the people you would have as a guest on your show, for sure. I think you want to know who they are. You want to have a sense of their personality and their values. Um, but when we specifically talk about moderating, you should definitely have, if not just a checklist of what you want them to look for and do, um, and how to handle different situations. I have something like a 40-page document that I'm sure Means and my other moderators have never read the entirety of because it's 40 pages. But it, goes over all of the different possible things, and it definitely needs an update. Um, but yeah, definitely don't let strangers moderate your channel. know who they are, um, and you also don't want to make so many people moderators that they outnumber the 90% lurkers that you have.
Absolutely. And Joe over on YouTube
Hey,
saying hello,
Joe.
Sam and John. So hi, Joe. How you doing? Hope you had a great week. It's great that you're able to join us today. So this is the video and live streaming show. We're talking all about community this week, and we've been talking a little bit about growing your community and moderating your community. You've spoken a little bit there just about picking those people and really making sure they are good choices, I suppose, and making sure that they understand what's acceptable and what's not. Was there any other thing that you wanted to add to that before we move on to our next topic, Sam?
Oh,
By that
I feel
reaction, I'm going to assume it's probably no. That's fine.
no. I think the next topic is whatever else I would say right here.
All right, awesome. Okay, so let's talk about it. I've alluded to it already. I don't really understand them, but Sam is all about the chatbots. So take me on this magical dive into chatbots. Sam, what are they? How are you using them? What are they good for?
Cool. So I just told you all not to let random strangers moderate your community. So what do you do if you don't have anyone you trust? Chatbots. So chatbots are these programs that just exist out there. Most of them are free. I'm sure there's a few paid ones. I know there's a few paid ones. There's a few subscription models, a few that you download to your desktop. There's a few that exist as cloud. Some of them actually handle multiple platforms. For the most part, they're going to be linked up to one platform, but there are a few multi-platform bots out there that are great. And they do a lot depending on the bot. So you can do things like chat moderation. So you can have them look for a variety of blacklisted words and just hold or ban or kick people for those words or just delete the messages. You can use them to release timed messages, which is great. So like you're doing a stream and every 30 minutes it goes, hey, join Sam over on youtube.com/SamProof every Friday at 1 p.m. Awesome, done. You can have different chat commands, which are prompts that your viewers can use to get a specific reply. Over on the Kitten Cam, we have new cats all the time. So some of the most common commands are names and ages, which will give them the names of all the cats we are currently fostering, and of course the ages of all of those cats as well. You can set up loyalty points, which are basically just a non-monetary digital point system that can be then used for other things. A really nice use for this is you can look at those loyalty points and be like, oh, this person has been around long enough to gain 2 million loyalty points. I might consider them for a moderator, wink, wink, hi means. A lot of these chatbots have built-in chat games. So you can use that to engage with your audience and encourage people to be doing something in your chat, which is always great. There are, in the case of like Twitch, you have what are called Twitch events that you can link to your chatbot. So if somebody subscribes or somebody leaves like a Twitch bit, which is their built-in sort of donation thing, an event will happen on screen. So you can link it to like a stream alert. A little zombie comes up and runs, and things like that. And one of my personal favorites is you can also link it to smart devices. So in that instance where somebody follows me, these lights behind me will change color or blink or do whatever you want. I can link this to a bunch of other services like IFTTT, which will then take in data from, oh, if someone follows me on Twitter, these lights will turn Twitter blue and blink. If someone follows me on YouTube, they'll turn red, purple for Twitch, and so on and so forth. So there's just a variety of things you can do. And I'm going to be releasing a blog on my Medium blog at Streamer's Corner in the near future about the chatbots that I use the most, which are Batismo and Mix It Up. Mix It Up app, which are uh, they have a lot of overlap, but they also do a lot of different things. Batismo is a paid subscription, but it is cloud based, which is great. It's also multi-platform, so you can have it run on. It's a good amount. It's like Twitch, YouTube. I'm gonna say Prime. No, it might be Glimish, and your Discord, which is nice. There's not a big overlap of bots that run on platform and Discord. So that's nice to have as well. And Discord, we are talking about community. We should have probably talked about this earlier. Is a great platform to build your community on and engage with those people when you're not live, when you're not in the midst of releasing content. The second
And
app that
I
yeah,
think like we probably do a whole deep dive on
yeah,
Discord sometime in the future. That's a great point. I guess you spoke about the triggering other devices. I guess one trend I've seen on TikTok of late and is really, really bizarre to me is that people will apparently go to sleep and they'll have a board behind them that says, if you do something, it'll trigger a really loud noise or the lights will
right.
flash violently and
Yeah.
all these things to wake themselves up, which I probably don't recommend from a health or mental health point of view. But it's a very weird thing that certainly people are trying out at the moment. And I just want to bring up Joe's comment here because it's incredibly relatable. So Joe writes that Bushcraft has a night bot. You type exclamation mark slap, and the bot replies, Joe slapped Karen with a stinky fish. I have to tell you, as someone that's been on the internet for an extraordinarily long time, I remember that from my IRC days, that particular
Yeah.
command. It takes me way back.
Right. Um, Q asked, where did a follow and asked where are them lights. I actually don't have that particular bot working for this stream because it controls a game bot or a game program that I ran. That just floods the chat with so many commands that for this particular stream I didn't want to do it. I'll see what I can do in the future. But yes, normally those lights would have changed.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I guess just looking at our document here. So talk to me about timed messages specifically, because that is something that does intrigue me.
Yeah,
How are you using those?
sure. So timed messages I use a lot of, and they can be used to raise awareness around specific things. Like it's just a call to action. Like, here's the latest video that I've done. So please go follow, go watch this. For over on the Kitten Cam, when our cats are available for adoption, we want to point out their bios or the adoption link. So that message will come out. If you have a brand deal, this is a great opportunity to, work with that sponsor and be like, I'm going to drop this every X amount of time based on how much you pay me. So there you go. I think that's always good too. And it's also an opportunity to put out calls to action for interaction, just like asking random questions. The cool thing about some of these bots like Batismo and Mix It Up app is the second one that I use. They both do timed messages and they both allow you to create your camera dropped. They both allow you to create a randomizer. So I can have a specific kind of timed message every hour on the hour, but it's not always the same message. Like I want to use that time for like an engagement with the audience. So maybe I'll have a list of 20 questions and it'll pick one question and randomly ask that out so people will answer that. So that's a really good use of timed messages, is to sort of build in a randomizer to it as well. So they're not just always seeing follow Sam on youtube.com, like, okay, I've seen that before. Let's move on.
And that random nature of those messages is important. If I can spit that out,
Yes.
I guess, and as a Stream Deck user, I know that there's an action that will tweet something out. But the thing that I've got to keep in mind is that Twitter won't repeat the same message more than once. I think in a 24-hour period, so it has to be a
Yeah.
different message, and that's something that I've always struggled with. In terms of that restream, I say restream, in the Stream Deck. All these things have the word stream in them, and it's confusing.
Right.
But there we go. Talking about this thing specifically right now. So there's an action in the software to actually tweet out a message. But again, you need to be a little bit creative about how you do it because it won't post a duplicate message.
Yeah, and I do want to point out that my Stream Deck for the Kitten Cam and from my stream in here are both connected to the Mix It Up app as well, so I can make it do the Stream Deck does some good stuff, but I can make it do even more complex stuff by connecting it to the chatbot.
Absolutely, because I guess the minute you are able to extend that functionality with code, it's amazing. So
Yeah.
that's really worthwhile. So I guess Sam, as we're approaching the hour, do you have any sort of final thoughts about or any reassurance maybe for new content creators about finding their audience and just keep going, really, I think is the encouragement
Yeah.
I'd probably give, but I'm curious to hear what you would think.
I definitely say keep going. If you haven't started, start now. Find your schedule and stick to it. Be consistent. Don't burn yourself out. Don't be like, great, I'm going to go 7 hours every day. Don't do that. Like, do what's reasonable. Um, and treat every new person who comes in with the opportunity that they will be that 1% user that is going to interact with you. And make it fun and engaging. Do what you can. I think I think that's all good. And uh, even if people don't reply to you, act like they have. Keep talking, never stop talking, which is what I'm doing right now. And just take it with what I've always said, which is this is your house. This is your house party. People are coming in to hang out. Maybe they want to talk to you, but maybe they want to hang out in the corner and just have a drink and see what's going on. And that's who people are. And that's cool, you know?
And I think that's the point. Like, you will have those lurkers out there. They'll watch you for a really long time before they actually interact with you in the first place. So don't be too discouraged if you see smaller numbers out there. Just keep going. Make sure you know what you talk about and what your subject matter actually is and what you care about, and keep going. Really, I this is very raw for me personally, because even though I've been creating content for 15, 20 years,
Yeah.
my channels are so new at this point that I am celebrating the fact when I get my 13th subscriber on YouTube, and a little bit of a shameless plug while we're here. If you're interested, head over to youtube.com/learn live streaming. That would be great if you could. So Sam, where can people find more about you and watch your stuff and that kind of thing?
Yeah, you can find me on just about every platform as Sam Proof, but head over to samproof.tv for all the links, and you can find me streaming on Twitch most mornings, and 3 times a week over on the Cute Avalanche Kitten Cam.
Awesome. And if you want to catch up with anything I'm doing, you can head over to johnlacey.com. All the links are over there. So thank you, everybody. We've had some great participation in the chat today. It's been really awesome. Thanks for hanging out with us. We'll be back next week. We're actually talking about editing short form vertical video. And Sam's going to show you his editor of choice, and I'm going to show you mine. So that's what we're going to be doing there. So please subscribe or follow wherever you're watching this. We'd love for you to hang out with us again next week. So until then, have a great week, have a great weekend, and keep going live.
Yeah, stay strong, everybody. And if there was a talking point you'd like to hear us talk more about in the future, let us know in the comments.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you again soon.